Here we go. Bruce, we're recording.
Sweet.
Look
How
at
you doing,
you.
Ron? Welcome back.
Look at you. You're a true Maverick, you know?
I came prepared today.
Yeah, but look with the hat, with the aviators.
Yeah, so did you apparently with the white sleeve.
I know, that's right. It looks better up top. Like I joined the gym this week, so I'm gonna have that Tom Cruise body at 60 in like no time flat. Look at this. Bruce, like it's so funny. We're going to talk about Maverick. Oh, sorry. Welcome to the R&B show. I always do this. Welcome to the R&B show. Thank you for watching another episode. Today, we're going to talk about Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, which blows my mind. I just saw it last night. This is not a movie I thought I would love as much as I loved, and I love it. And you wrote a review about it, and it's so succinct. You have your one paragraph, no BS review. And I just feel like, talk to me about that. Like, talk to me about everything you loved about this movie.
All right, well, let me lose the gimmicks and actually so yeah, I guess to keep it real succinct, similarly to the review, this was like a perfect summer movie, and one that I feel like audiences have been in need of for a long time, right? They did the smart thing because obviously they filmed this a couple years back, supposed to come out pre-pandemic, so we were all anticipating it. Obviously kind of the world turned upside down and it delayed this. But Tom Cruise and the studios very smartly held off instead of like doing the streaming thing that so many other people did. And because they knew what they had on their hands. I felt they were pretty confident. And this is definitely, if you're going to see this movie, don't cheap yourself of the experience and stream it. Make sure you see it theatrically. This is an old school film meant to be experienced on the widest screen with the best sound possible. But I like that. Let's put it this way, Ron, if we have two camps, and the first camp is Creed and Cobra Kai, and then the second camp is Phase 4 Marvel and Star Wars, I would put Top Gun Maverick obviously in the first camp of something that not only kind of follows up on a legacy, but actually builds upon it. And what I also loved is that we're revisiting this iconic character, one of our big heroes many years later. And it didn't go for the typical trope of like destroying your heroes, right? Not showing him like depressed and run down. He's still very much Maverick, still very much badass from the get-go. So I like that they didn't kind of go down that typical guy's got to find his groove back, which we'll get into later. So that's a couple things. And obviously too, we'll get into the casting and all that other stuff.
So without going into spoilers, like, that there's a moment before the third act where he gets an opportunity to really shine, and it was so foreign to your point, it's so foreign from what we're used to, where our heroes are like, again, they have to go to the bottom and like there's no reality in which 30 years someone gets progressively more attuned and more talented, or more like, this is such a good story about getting older. And Tom Cruise doesn't look that much older,
Yeah.
He's more refined in his skills, but he gets to do something at the end that I was like, in every other movie, they'd be like, you're too old. Like, and the whole movie, they're like, let it go, forget about flying, just be a teacher. And it's like Rocky Balboa. I mean, Rocky Balboa in 2006, where he's like, the last thing to go in a fighter is your heart. Like, I remember laughing at that. And I think Tom Cruise is the same age as Rocky was, or Stallone was when he made Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
And I just think like it's a bigger commentary in a day and age where everybody's so sensitive and so worried about saying the wrong thing and offending someone, right? I go, why is ageism still okay? Like, this movie made me think about that. I go, why can't he do what he does in this movie? Like, we're told in 1986 that he's the most talented flyer, and then he stayed in the industry. Now he's been a Maverick, right? He's not like, he's not promoted to admiral. Like, that's not a spoiler. Like, he's state captain, and they talk about that the whole movie. And the guy's basically the whole time going, I've been doing what I love for 30 years. And it's great. Yeah. It's just great to watch a guy do what he loved for 30 years, and he still gets to do it in this movie. Fuck, it's great.
Yeah, in the hands of like more ham-fisted writers, it definitely would have been like, again, the old guy, kind of sad sack, and it's the young kind of recruits or the new talent that basically supplant him and plant the seed for like the next generation to take over. So, to your point, I think definitely they went in the right direction. Especially, I think Cruise having more creative control in this definitely benefited him because he got to play the character the way he wanted to, and he understood the audience. He knew that this was a film for fans of the original that had been waiting a long time. He didn't do the bait and switch. He's very much, and basically, Tom Cruise is our last true movie star, I think. So, and he lives up to the billing in this for sure, because this is the kind of film that you have to be super dedicated to cinema. He really is so disciplined and passionate about filmmaking and doing it right. This was a film that didn't go the cheap CGI route. This new cast were trained and were actually taken up in the air. You got these realistic shots, photorealistic, and again, less reliant on cheap CGI. So that was part of it. And I think the other thing is that we can talk about this a little bit later. The film is definitely a not so subtle kind of metaphor for the phasing out of a certain type of heroism as well. So
I want to address that. So something that I tell me if I'm alone on this one. Like 20 years ago, I had a coach that worked on, I think she was in the movie The Fugitive, or I think she was friends with the editor of Rain Man, the guy that edited Rain Man. And I'm giving too many details, but there was discussion about Tom Cruise's performance, and his abilities, let's say, right? And it just got in my head that I was like, this guy is so charming. I mean, what a movie star, right? Such a movie, his smile, and I watched the original Top Gun recently, and I was like, his smile just sells it all, right? But he's not, I mean, no one would cast him in a Shakespeare movie, or a Shakespeare play, right? Are we on the same page about that? His range as an actor is very limited, right?
But he's very good at what he does. And that's the thing that I think he often gets undersold as an actor. I've been a fan from the get-go. My brother and I were actually having this conversation because, he was waiting to see what my reaction to the movie was. He went to go see it. He loved it. But I've always been a Tom Cruise fan, a believer. You saw it in Born on the 4th of July. That. So, I mean, he can act. It's, but it's a difference between being, a kind of very methody, serious actor, which I think he actually is again, very underrated. But he's bigger than that. And we've had this conversation before. He's a movie star. And that's a whole different thing to carry rather than simply being an actor giving a performance. It's much larger than life.
And he's a sick producer, right? I loved right before the movie, he gets on, he's on screen. He's and I thought he was going to say something like, hey guys, we're raising money or something. I don't know. But he gets on the screen. Did they do that? Yeah. And he's it was a big, guess what, guys? He's like, we did this for you, and we didn't want to cheapen the experience. And I loved how he said it. I forget how he said it, but he's like, hi, I'm Tom Cruise. I have the power to make a movie sit on a shelf for 2 years during a pandemic, just so that you could see it in the movie theater. You're welcome. I love that. I was like, that's power.
And meanwhile, as the audience, you're like, we're not worthy.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal movie. It's phenomenal. It was so worth the wait. And it's it doesn't, if you didn't know that they shot it 3 years ago and that it was supposed to come out, I wouldn't have known,
Yeah. And again, the practical effects, it looks good. In many ways, this is actually a better film than the original, which is again, another kind of miracle in and of itself, in that the material, the old one kind of, it's in the sense, it feels like it's a guilty pleasure. The original, you go back and watch it, even though I still think it's, it's a great entertaining movie. But this one's, a little bit more serious maybe in tone, so I think they improved upon certain things. A little bit of the cheesiness has been moved by the wayside. And, another thing I think that they accomplished in a very smart way is that they had the diversity, they had the representation in this, minus the preachiness, so you had a very diverse cast, you had female representation, you had Black representation, all of that. A great team, that you get behind, that you love, but again, without all the virtue signaling. So I thought that was another thing that they pulled off in a very smart way.
Yeah.
And, in the end, you end up with a very entertaining movie that is kind of not talking down to the audience or so agenda driven. So
the only thing that I would Jennifer Connelly's character, I was like, that's still an underwritten woman. Like I felt like that was still a little bit like, like they
Yeah,
didn't
I can
spend
see
enough time
that.
with
I've
her.
seen that in other reviews as well, even though she did great for, the part she was given. And in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, I'm watching this and I'm like, she's kind of like the female Tom Cruise equivalent in a way of like, this kind of well-preserved wonder.
Yeah.
So
And I was like, but someone and like someone else could have like not in her level, like not in her league, could have like played that part and it would have been like it's such a
maybe, but maybe not, because you also at the same time, if you're a fan of that era, she has a lot of goodwill with that
yeah,
audience too. So I
yeah.
think I don't think you could have just thrown anybody and kind of had maybe the same chemistry and the same dynamic of these two, really good actors who have coexisted for a long time but never worked together. So I
Mhm.
think maybe I got a little bit more out of it than you did, but
I get what you're saying. That she brings a gravitas, but it wasn't on the page.
no. But the way she played it definitely gave it more.
Yeah, I don't know. That part for me was like, I don't know, that I could have gotten more of that. But yeah, I mean
Sure.
John Hamm, like let's talk about John Hamm steals that movie. He's great.
Yeah, he is. And again, the representation of like, trying to phase out, the old guard and
Yeah.
all. Well, you kind of needed that
Or
authority figure.
like Ed Harris in the beginning, I was like I loved Ed Harris in the beginning. Like I was like, that's like a day job for him. He's like, you want me to be the gruff older guy that's like, and he was in the right stuff too. And I love that, like I just love the parallel of that. Like, yeah, I casting was phenomenal. You know, Miles Teller, there's like something like we've talked about this. Do you like Miles Teller?
I mean, from what I've seen him in, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was great in this.
He was great
He
in this.
nailed it.
Yeah,
Nailed
like
it.
there's something that always sets me off about him that makes me uncomfortable. But in this movie, I was like, he was so likable and so sympathetic. I just loved him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen other like interviewers have said, like, I guess behind the scenes, maybe he's not so
Yeah.
well liked, but as far as like what he brought to the screen and his dedication to this and really pulling off that part, I mean, I thought he did great.
Yeah. He's in The Offer, which is a Paramount. Did I talk to you about this? Paramount, the Paramount channel has a limited series, which will stay a limited series, unlike other limited series right now, Obi-Wan.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint. It's a limited series that it's about the making of Godfather.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal. It's so good. It's such a good show. Like it's like guilty pleasure, because that production was so wrought with like drama. So he's in that. He plays Al Ruddy, who was one of the producers under Bob Evans, and the guy they have playing Bob Evans, the legendary mogul. He talks like Bob. I mean, it's amazing. Like the guy is like, I believe he's Bob Evans. They got Bob Evans. But so Miles Teller is like the lead of that show, and yeah, he's really good. And but there's something swarmy about him, but like
Yeah.
he brings it he knows the assignment. He does every movie he does a great job in. So the point is that
Either he does a great job or that's just him.
or that's just him. Yeah. Dude, I was not expecting to like this movie as much. Just as when they said there's gonna be a Cobra Kai show, I was like, give me a break. So they still, if they God, it's like such a good example of if you're gonna play to this market, there's a way to give them what they want and give them something new. Like there's things in that I was thrilled by that I didn't know I wanted and needed and I got. I was like, thank you. Like it was the one time in 20 years where I feel like they anticipated, and they played it right.
Yeah, and you know what the ironic ththing about this is that the properties that you expect to deliver on these things are not doing it right now. And then stuff like this, well, like you said, with the Cobra Kai, or when you first heard about like, the continuation of the Rocky story in Creed, or in this, you're kind of getting those cringy feelings. And then it turns out to be the ones that knock it out of the park, And I think we got to give some credit. I give a lot of credit to the director. I think it was Joseph Kosinski, I believe is the name.
Yeah.
Years ago, he did, in my opinion, a very underrated Tron sequel, was a Tron Legacy, which I loved. And again, it was a continuation of that story. And I thought it did justice and delivered upon, a generation that waited for that follow-up. So he did a great job in that. So he definitely understands how to do this and bring it to life. And I mean, if there's other stuff lingering out there yet to be kind of, I guess, exploited or
Yeah,
milked.
yeah, give it to him.
Give it to this guy. Yeah.
Bring him on to Star Wars.
Oh, I would love it. I mean,
Oh, they
you
should.
know, in a sense, the third act was the Star Wars trench run. I mean, did you not get that
Oh,
in? Yeah.
oh, 100%, 100%. Except that they had to blow up the thing around the thing. Like, it's like,
But come on, right?
yeah, it's literally like, you know, uh, someone, a podcast I listened to, they were talking about how maybe like the virtuous like nature of this movie, where it's like good old, like good defeats bad, and it's like it's very clear. They're like, maybe this gives hope to a Superman movie that is just a straight up Superman movie, you know? Like, so I hope they give him a Superman movie, like a DC, like please DC, give him a
He'd be
Superman
perfect.
movie. He'd be
This would be the
perfect.
guy to do it. It all depends on the creative behind it, as you can see, because you can destroy great properties
Yep.
that have so much audience goodwill if you don't have the right creative behind it.
Yep.
You get someone like this who understands and knows the audience and loves the material, like really loves the material. It's not just using it as a platform for something else or a launching pad,
Yep.
you know, for other, you know, ideas or whatever.
Oh,
You need more people like this
yeah.
behind this stuff, especially the stuff that's so beloved. You know, otherwise, basically, you're cheapening it out, and in the end, you're devaluing it anyway. You know, I mean, with this, not that I would want it, but if they wanted to, they could so do a follow up to this
With
film
Tom
as well.
Cruise. With Tom
Yep.
Cruise. Like
Yep.
I'm so in right now, and I so believe, and the way they ended, I'm like, he's still working, right? Like,
Yeah.
I hope they do another one. Honest to God,
Trust me,
I've never felt this
Don't
way.
think the studio, after seeing the success of this, and also, you know, the both the critical and audience scores, believe me, they'll be kind of, if they haven't already, they'll be knocking on his door, begging.
I'm in
Yeah.
for it. I'm in for it, and I'm in for it in a way that I couldn't give a shit about Indiana Jones 75 or whatever it is, like this next, because Crystal Skull was horrible, right? Like that's, I mean, but
It was an embarrassment.
it was embarrassment. Whereas here you go, like it was the same idea, right? I'm not going to pass the baton. I'm still in the game. I'm still right. And what game? Like what game was he in? Here it was real. I mean, yes, like there's some suspense of disbelief, maybe, but no, there isn't suspense. I'll tell you why. And then there's my final thought, and I'll shut up about it. The harrowing act at the end, or no, I'm sorry, the harrowing act that he does, that's the turning point, where they give him this opportunity. We're keeping a spoiler free. Was earned because he was willing to lose, and there's a chance you go, he could die. Like it was done so well that he puts himself on the line, and he could die. Like there's and everything. I mean, in the last movie, Goose dies. So you're like, anything's possible, and we're in this world where the old guard is gonna die and has to pass on, right? So there was danger, and I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, it was so well done, you know. And again, it was a movie that didn't trade just on nostalgia, you know, and give you those beats. Yeah, it did that, you know, because again, they didn't sell out the generation that brought you to the dance, which is what they respected that. And I, you know, of course, I love that.
Yeah.
But you know, they built a story that made sense. It didn't feel forced. It was a logical extension of the material. So they did that. And also, we have to really quickly, and this will be my last point. You know, give Tom a lot of credit for also really going to bat for getting Val Kilmer in this, because apparently the studio was, you know, a little ropey about it, and he really went to bat to get Kilmer in there. And Kilmer, you know, if you have Tom as like this almost like iconic hero that's like shouldn't be at this stage of the game, Val is like the one kind of providing the realism and the contrast of that, and the mortality, you know. And so I thought that was beautifully done as well.
I concur. You know, and it's like, I just hope for, as a fan, I say this lovingly, I hope that studios, you know which studio I'm talking about, goes, oh shit, 155 or 156 million dollar opening for a movie that is really really positive and has a really good outlook and is really clean and just fun, and doesn't have, like, it's, you know, there's no crossovers. It's not like it's not Ethan Hawke is a cousin, and not Ethan Hawke, Ethan Hunt is a cousin here, and The Color of Money and Risky Business, and it's not Tom Multiverse, you know? Like, it's a very clear-cut, contained world, and it's fun to watch. Please make more of these movies. We will show up for them.
Yeah, for sure. This is what happens when you don't overthink things and overcomplicate them, or try to second guess the audience, or try to phase out another audience in favor of a new audience. This is, what happens when you just honor, source material that people love already. So they couldn't have done a better job.
Yes.
A+.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was it Paramount? Who was it?
I believe it was Paramount. Yeah.
Yeah. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
There's another. Now you have another franchise. It's not just Star Trek. Like, good job, Paramount.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, do all the, what to do. Just do the things.
Yeah. And for those of you who've seen it, share your thoughts. I would like to hear from those of you. I haven't heard of anyone say anything negative about it, which is another thing. It's like, this is not kind of shill reviews or anything like that. This is, from everyone across the board. I have not heard anything negative. So
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. We'll see you again very, very soon. Bye.